First of all, it shouldn't be any surprise that the professional services sector broadly is doing really well, and even at this stage doing significantly better with stronger expectations of recovery than clients, because clients clearly need a lot of help, given those first two sections of the poll that you just responded to right now. So whether or not it's the 5% that are still in recovery mode, survival mode, or whether we're in the middle of transforming ourselves as clients for the post-pandemic world, well, all of them, one way or another, need advice and they need professional solutions. So no surprise that we've been having a great war, a great pandemic. And you know what? When I look at my own clients, it's not just a story of stronger billings and expectations of stronger billings, because talking to an old friend who was vice chair of one of the big four audit-based firms, just yesterday, actually, we were talking about what's been happening to costs with new ways of working. And from their standpoint, they've seen significant cost reductions and better utilization of junior professional staff. So yes, there they are, struggling for the use of the kitchen table in those shared flats, but utilization and billable hours per junior staff member have been going up. And again, my friend was saying that there are going to be some remarkable partner bonuses being declared very shortly. And some of my other friends in the sector who are at senior levels in partnerships are telling me, not too loudly, that they've really discovered the joy of doing their work in those lovely, spacious country homes with good wine cellars, beautiful outdoor space, no commute, and fewer interruptions from annoying colleagues. So heck, what's not to love about all of that? I've got a warning, and strategy people generally do come with warnings. So typically a strategy person will say, look how well you've been doing, but also look ahead, and there's the cliff edge or there's golden opportunity. That's, if you like, the spiel of the strategist. And I'm going to start with a warning and give you the warning on the basis of a very short story. So over the last 2 years, I've been working with a consulting firm that's got about 1,000 professionals. And I led an intervention back in March last year, which was my very last piece of face-to-face in-person work. And the focus from their CEO and COO was on, how are we going to double the business in profit terms in 3 years? Well, that was achieved by Christmas last year. Staggering. And on top of that, they made a very successful exit in a sale to a PE house last summer. I'd love to say all of that was down to my intervention, but if I tell you that it's a health consulting firm which advises almost all the world's pharmaceutical companies, you wouldn't see any surprise there. So for them, the pandemic has been the gift that keeps on giving opportunity. And if we were looking at strategies from a market perspective, heck, disruption, golden opportunity. But then the pressing question for my health consulting client was, well, yes, there's the growth there, the market's humming, but what or who is going to keep the engine running? Be careful what you wish for, is the message here, because obviously continued profitable growth or even stability depends on your senior people building new relationships. If you remember David Maister's language, more than ever, they need to be hunters, not just farmers. That's because we've got greater client churn in this time of disruption, and indeed we've got greater churn of individuals within our client organizations. But it's not just a story of the seniors. Of course, it depends on the juniors. And without wanting to pin anyone down, in many of the firms I work with, actually the juniors, the junior professionals are the most profitable people, both in terms of the margin, in other words, the spread between the billing rate per hour and their cost per hour, and all the more so with professional firms that have got a leverage structure, which for many is going to be the driver of superb profit per partner. And there's been a lot of attention given to the really difficult challenge that the juniors face during the pandemic, and rightly so. But here's the punchline. If we're coming back to your resource-based strategy as the complement to your market-facing strategy, what I find has been neglected, and this is where my warning lies to those of you who are enjoying considerable success right now, is what is or is not in the middle. And back to our old friend David Maister, the professional services guru. David, you might recall, talked about the finders, who might be the senior people in your firm, and the grinders, who would be the junior people, but in the middle, the minders. And in my experience, that's where the critical resource is in a professional service firm. So your mid-level professional staff, they've got enough experience to manage themselves. They're responsible for the day-to-day client contact, and it's they who drive the engine of profitability, because if we're thinking about that engine of profitability, it's junior utilization and leverage. It's giving on-the-job training, sharing tacit knowledge, doing quality assurance, the work planning, and all the human resource functions that you simply can't afford to leave to HR. They are the engine. And it's not only your most critical resource, but also the one that's exposed to greatest risk as we look ahead. So your minders, those key mid-level professionals, have always been vulnerable to poaching. But consider them now. So they've been bearing the heaviest load in pandemic conditions and in the transition to non-traditional ways of working. A lot of them are exhausted. And in the old days, we could get away with exhausting them because we could persuade them to toil for 15 years in the hope of partnership. But that promise of deferred gratification is getting more and more hollow. So if we neglect the middle, you'll get what my health consulting clients referred to as a hollowed out apple core, which was their biggest strategic fear. And I believe that's going to be the biggest challenge for our resource strategies as we move beyond the pandemic. And here's the rub, the success, which Richard drew out in the poll, your success in 2020 and in 2021 may have been at the expense of consuming this critical resource. So when we get to the panel discussion, if this resonates, I'd love to discuss how you propose to safeguard the middle.